Welcome back, it's me RJB, and today I've got something else for you. I've got you some 2 versus 2. This was originally a series played between Top Clan or Top Class. As you can see here, Kong top on the bottom corner. And here we have Shin+, top right above him. And his opponents are Toki and Shin Style, who's using the name Barcode X. So this is basically streamers or the people who belong to the clan Style against the players of clan Top, Shin+ and Kong and Goguryo, but they're not in the match right now. LuckyBack is also in this series, but he's not in this match right now. The first game was actually a 3 versus 3, but I think 3 versus 3 is a little bit too chaotic to cast. And there's about 15 games in this series, so I am only picking the 2 versus 2 games that they're playing to make things a little bit more easy to cast, easy to follow, but also just to shorten the video. Because otherwise I'd be here for about 2 or 3 hours, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to cast just the 2 versus 2 games. And it's probably already quite evident that it's Toki and Shin Style on the same team, whereas Kong and Shin+, of course, are on the other team. Now, Kong is starting off with a very greedy start here, but likewise, Toki is starting with a greedy eco build as well. That's something that's not quite unlike what we've seen so far in Protoss versus Protoss within the Korean scene, where usually they start off with one person going 3 gateways and the other person going for a quick gas, but this time around it's slightly different. There's a +1 nexus, so it looks like they've changed the meta quite a bit. We'll mostly be expecting Shin+ and Shin to go head-to-head in the first stage of the game. And it's honestly quite different from Western Protoss versus Protoss, but I think that's because they are not allowed to choke up their front, and they're not allowed to mass cannon on the middle, which changes the meta quite significantly. For example, in the Western meta, it's very cannon-centric, where you fight over middle control, block one person off from having access to the middle. So you isolate the two, and then you basically go for the other person and try to kill that person, or you block that person as well, and just all in on storm drops on the minerals until the enemy is too broke to fight back. Likewise, people make a choke pretty early on, because they just want to keep the enemy out of their base, stay safe, which is honestly the best option in that case. But because the rules are different, where they cannot choke up their front with cannons, and they cannot mass can the middle, they more or less have different build orders, different strategies, and there's a lot more action. So yeah, one player starts off defensively, and the other 2 players try to protect their ally in the case their ally is boxed in between 2 enemies. But in this case, Kong and Toki are pretty far away, removed from each other. And I think my phone just rang. I'm going to turn that one off as well, so it doesn't keep ringing during me trying to cast. So yeah, both players are going for let's see what they're going for actually. It looks like Toki is going for robotics. Likewise, it looks like Kong is also going for robotics, but I think he is a little bit ahead of Toki actually. He's got 10+ Archive there as well, so it looks like they are going for drops. There's no 10+ Archive out yet for Toki, and he isn't starting it anytime soon. There it is. He did start it sometime soon, but he's a little bit behind on Kong. Kong is a really good player on pretty much all races, but specifically his Protoss I've always been very impressed by. So yeah, Shin is he just keeps going back and forth there with Shin+. They're both mirroring each other's builds, although Shin is a little bit behind on his cybernetics core, because Shin+ already has his cybernetics core finished up. 4 gateways there, 4 gateways there, making a skeleton with the pylons. Still a little bit of back and forth. Kong is assisting with that single zealot. Broke there, scouting Toki's base, seeing what he's up to. They're mirroring each other almost perfectly. Support bay out for Kong. Support bay not yet finished up for Toki. He's honestly quite a bit behind on Kong. They're about even in supply. It's just the speed at which they are making their tech that is different. Both are in 3 gas. First shuttle is out for Kong. Fight still happening here between Shin and Shin+. Shin seems to have gotten the upper hand over Shin+. which doesn't surprise me all that much, because look at his APM. His EAPM is probably also 300. He's honestly the fastest player of everyone. He is the fastest player. If you include all the low money players and the fastest map players, he is undoubtedly the fastest player. And maybe that's also why he is the biggest Starcraft streamer at the moment. He averaged about 7,000 to 10,000 views, which is more than Flash, more than Jaedong, more than Bisu, more than Queen, more than any of the big normal map streamers. And so Storm Drop is coming in here from Kong onto Toki. He walks into range because the shuttle went down. He managed to get a Storm off, but he doesn't kill all that many. He kills about 7, maybe 5. Yes, he kills about 7 or 6. So Toki there in a pretty bad situation, but he managed to come out unscathed. Although, of course, he did get put behind by a small amount, which might snowball into a bigger deficit. Second drop already being loaded up there for Kong. First drop now being loaded up for Toki. Looks like Sinla managed to unwrap himself from that tangled situation there. Now on 7 gateways. Our Shin is almost on 8, but lagging behind by just a little bit. Drop there, meeting each other. They both know the drop is coming. Kong is preparing himself by moving his Dragoons into position, ready to intercept that shuttle, but he moved a little bit too far to the top. Whereas, same situation here in Toki's base, but he's got only 2 Dragoons, so he's playing a little bit more risky. Toki can go in because there's a probe there on the top side, providing Kong vision over the hill, which is honestly really, really smart, very low cost. So Toki retreats. Now drop comes in from Kong. Kong flies in all the way. Toki didn't respond quite well, but he pulled all his probes away. So Kong loads up that shuttle once again, moves the Templar up to the top side, tries to chase the probes. Probes now running away. Probes now running back in. Now he's going for... Looks like he's just waiting for another window. He doesn't... yeah, he's going to leave there. Fight still happening here between Kong and Sinla. Drop now goes back in. He goes in for the workers. Doesn't get... He gets to unload the Templar, but the Templar is going to go down before he can get a Storm off. And the same story here happening inside of Kong's base, where the drop didn't land, but the Dark Templar is now wreaking havoc there inside the base. Now the drop gets loaded up. Sinla is starting to catch up. He's pretty much at the same point as where Shin is at. Both players did not make a +1 Nexus. They're just pretty much mass machines where they make units, more units, and try to fight and get dominance over the other player. Their supply counts are about even. Drop here once again, trying to find a way into Toki's space. Toki's handling it quite well once again. Shuttle here gets spotted out. Whereas looks like Kong is now going for Shin's minerals. And Shin very quickly has to pull back, but he's got Dragoons all around his mineral patch, so he can defend himself and snipe the shuttle. Same story here for Kong though, because Storm Drop is coming in here from the corner. He flies into the Dragoons. Now shuttle is forced to fly back. Kong once again trying to find an opening, but another drop there coming here from the bottom side, but he gets sniped. Same story here. No, the shuttle actually almost makes it all the way in. Gets a Storm off, kills only 2 or 1 probe. So great dodge there from him. I don't think Toki I think Toki actually managed to kill a couple of probes there, because he's now ahead of Kong, so he must have killed about 6 or 5. I missed it, the drop itself, because I was looking at another drop. Now once again Kong is going for Shin. Honestly, Sinla and Shin are not really fighting anymore. They're just waiting to scale up and go for a fight, which is quite uncharacteristic. Usually you get fights way earlier into the game. But this time around, both players are just going for... They're pretty much letting Toki and Kong decide the pace of the game, because if either of them hits a drop on someone, that's the sign to go and go for the attack, because that means you've got the definitive upper hand over the other one. Smart move from Kong here, using hallucination to double the amount of shuttles, make it harder for Shin to snipe them. Shin does have his Dragoons there in the mix, ready to intercept, but the drop is going to fly in all the way, I assume. He is focusing the target. He actually managed to target the correct shuttle, which was in the front. Great job from him there. So nothing happening as of yet. Toki is very slowly trying to build up. He's a little bit slower than Kong, but we've seen that being a trend the entire game so far. He is ahead in supply though, although now Kong has caught up. Sinla is about even with Shin. Sinla has not been touched on his minerals whatsoever, so Toki is a little bit behind on his drop speed, but he's now setting up a good drop here on Sinla. And considering Sinla doesn't have side vision, as compared to Shin. I think Sinla might just get hit here from the top side unless this observer moves to the side just a little bit. Shin now going on the aggression. He's trying to be the aggressor. But Kong is prepared to help his ally fight this one off. Toki also prepared himself to move on to the middle because he's pretty much almost maxed out. 66 probes. The airdrop now comes in from the top side here on Sinla. Sinla is not responding because he's focused on the fight. Sinla now dodges the storm drop, but he does end up losing a couple of those probes, but not too many. He's pretty much still even with Shin. It looks like Sinla and Kong actually come out on top on that fight on the middle. Drop also leaving the on the middle for Kong. I think it's gonna go for Shin once this entire mass is going to enter his base. Toki is forced to pull back here, but he's got a mass regrouping ready to send it in. Shuttles now moving in on Shin, going right over the middle, right over the goons, where Shin isn't focused. Shin's got to start dodging this one right now, right here. Storm drop makes it all the way in. Templars on the lower ground. Templars storming, but the Templars miss most of the probes. Now the Templars are going down. Shin is somewhat safe, but he's getting invaded by a mass amount of Zealots, Dragoons, and Dark Templars. Dark Templars wreak havoc there inside the base. He doesn't have detection except for this cannon there in the back. He's got counter Dark Templars there in the mix as well. Toki now coming in from the back, ready to clear out those units from Kong and Sinla. But Kong and Sinla seem to be coming out on the bottom in this fight. Toki now has a huge mass. Shin has a small mass. He's got to rebuild it, so it's somewhat evened out. Sinla and Kong are both on about 130, 140. But Toki is absolutely massive, and he's also got... Well, I think everyone has about the same equal upgrades, although... Yeah, 101, 001 for the Stormdroppers. Stormdroppers a little bit behind on their upgrades. It looks like this looks to be a very good fight here for Toki and Shin. They're getting the overhand here over Sinla. Sinla falling behind a little bit. Kong now sending his units in as well. There's no drops there on the map at the moment. Or maybe there's a drop here. Drop comes in. Storms on Sinla, but Sinla's dodged it pretty well, but it'll slow down his income by quite a bit. But there's more Templars here in the mix from Toki. Toki just has to walk up and storm, and he storms about 10. Not a Templar there. When will it go in? Will it hit? Sinla's pushed back into the safety of his base there, but he is not feeling very safe. He's trying to feel safe, but he can't because there's so many units knocking on his door. More storms coming out. Kills another 5. And Sinla is very slowly being torn apart here by Toki and Shin, losing all of his gateways there in the front, losing a couple of probes as well. Kong is doing his best to try and help coming in from the backside, but is not having much success. Another storm drop here coming in from Toki. This might be the saving grace if it hits, but I think Toki's got these Dragoons ready to intercept that shuttle, and yes, he does. He intercepts the shuttle, force to unload, force to retreat. Shuttle too low HP to go back in. Kong here coming in on the side on Toki's units. Toki's Dragoons there on the middle. And Dark Templar spawning, but he's got an observer there in the mix, which means the Dark Templars go down very, very quick. And honestly, it looks like this game is over because Shin and Toki just are too far ahead. Kong played it really well, Sinla played it really well, but Shin and Toki are just so hard to beat on this specific matchup. And once again, Templar comes in. Templar gets a storm off on the probes. Once again, another 10 probes go down, and Sinla is really, really bleeding out really hard there. He's got 1/3 of the probes that Toki and Shin has, which is really bad in this situation. And it's going to ruin his ability to make even the slightest comeback, even though a comeback is honestly impossible here. I'm expecting the GG within about 10 or 20 seconds here from Sinla and Kong. Kong is fighting his hardest, trying his best to regain some of that control that they had in the earlier phases, but that control has completely disappeared. Upgrades now boosting up to the next level. Storm drop there, flies into the goons, wasted, sadly. Observer there, storm drop comes in from Shin this time around. He's just dancing there in the front, making sure that they will leave. And Shin and Toki come out on top on game number, technically number 4, but I'm calling it game number 1. Or I'm not going to call it game number 1 at all. Anyway, they won this one. Quite an amusing, entertaining match. Yeah, I'm not going to keep score because I'm eliminating the 3v3 games from this series. So yeah, nice win for Shin and Toki. I think it's about time we go into game, I want to say number 2, but let's just say go into the next 2 versus 2 that they played and see how that one pans out. Alright, for the next game, not game number 2, the next game we have Sword, who is a semi-pro player, or a top amateur player. He's playing for team top. We've got Kong top there as well. They're playing Protoss versus Terran. They've got a they got a top corner and the middle spot there on the top, whereas Toki is the green Terran and Shin is playing the blue-gray. I think that's the blue-gray or pale blue Protoss right next to Gold Sword. Well, these spots are pretty good for all players. Let's see how they're going to play this matchup. Alright, so Barrack there in the front, so he can make a depot right next to it and pretty much wall off his front. Same thing for Gold Sword there, but Gold Sword is a little bit behind on Toki with the start off at barracks. About 5 seconds behind. Might make a difference, although Gold Sword pulls that SV to the front to make a depot there in the front, whereas Toki makes it on the side. Gold Sword wants to make a wall in the front. Gas coming down for both players as well. Kong scouts, Shin scouts, they already find their opponents. And I think both players now already know where their opponents are located on the map. I honestly like this detail here with the walls, the hills, how they're decorated. Looks kind of cute. Anyway, yeah, so it looks like both players are going for a bunker here in the front, or so I assume. That's a depot. He's walling his front off entirely. Probe there trying to kill the SCV. Marine spawns. SCV is actually going to go down, though, if Shin markers it well. Shin is not going to try to go back in. Same story here with Kong. He's trying to build a pylon there, but Toki is being very smart by placing the SCV there on the spot where Kong would be making the pylon. I think Shin was trying to do the same thing. Oh, never mind, it doesn't work on this spot because the gas is a little bit wider. Basically, if you make a pylon here, the SCVs cannot mine gas because they get stuck in between the pylon and the refinery and they cannot return to the CC. So you first have to kill the pylon before you can continue making gas. So single factory there. 2 factories here for Gold Sword. Second factory cutting out soon for Toki. There's a Zealot in his base trying to wreak havoc, trying to kill, I think, these 2 SCVs or maybe block them from making the factory. Probe Zealot, same story here in Gold Sword's base. Probe Zealot are in. Now 3 more Zealots are on the way, ready to sneak their way in. Build a bunker there in the front of Kong's base. That's really smart. Because now all those Zealots take at least a little bit of damage before they arrive in Toki's base, making it easier for him to fight off against those Marines. Zealots with Marine Micro, which he's doing pretty well. Gas is out for both the Protoss players because they need Dragoons against Vultures because Vultures are definitely on the way. But Gold Sword looks to be ahead of Toki by quite a bit because he's got the first factory already finished. Vulture almost out. Toki is behind by about 5 seconds and his factory is behind by about 15 seconds. So there's going to be a huge gap in Vulture fighting ability between those 2 players. Purely because Gold Sword is a little bit ahead of Toki. Gold Sword handling this one pretty well. But he is losing some SCVs, whereas Toki is not really losing SCVs as quick as Gold Sword is. Kong is attacking the SCVs though, but there's only a single Vulture there in the mix to fight against those Zealots, whereas Gold Sword has more Zealots but less SCVs than Toki has. And Toki is now successfully fighting off the Zealots and comes out on top with 4 more SCVs than Gold Sword. Gold Sword is really hurting in this situation here. He's going to lose another SCV. No, he doesn't lose another SCV. Manages to fight him way out of this sticky situation. He's got a lot of Vultures now, ready to fight back against Shin. But Toki already also ready to fight back against Kong. But he's got less Vultures, and those Vultures that Gold Sword has are going to get cut out in between those Zealots, but he does wind up killing most of the Vultures that Toki had. But his Vulture reproduction ability is a little bit lower because look, this one is empty, this one is full. He lost a lot of SCVs there, he's busy microing against Toki. Goes into the bunker. There's no Marines in the bunker, he pulled all the Marines out. Well, that's something he can no longer use to defend himself with. Shin's Dragoons now chasing Kong's Dragoons. Vultures there getting cut by... Oh, he's repairing that Vulture, really smart move. Loses the Vultures in the end. He's slowly rebuilding his Vultures, but his supply count is lower than Toki's, but that's purely because he's got less SCVs. Kong now retreating back to the bunker, but the bunker is once again attacking his Dragoons. He didn't kill the bunker earlier, and he winds up losing 2 of his Dragoons, which now means that Shin is ahead of Kong. Bigger supply count, and Shin can now start to hammer away at the front of Goldsword here, but he's not really managing to get his way in there. He's killing the Marines instead of killing the SCV, but the SCV does not. SCV will finish the bunker, and Goldsword will have a successful frontal defense there up until Dragoon range finishes for Shin, which will allow him to kill those 2 depots there in the front. Looks like Kong is successfully boxed in here on the top corner. Kong now has to go for Reavers for a drop if he wants to, because he's pretty much contained and can't afford to go out or move out. Or he's going for Observers. That's also, yes, he's going for Observers, not going for the Reaver drop. He's going for Observers so he can detect those Spider Mines coming out. Goldsword does not have Spider Mines yet because he was forced to put all of his SCVs on his minerals and stop mining gas. So he's in a really, really bad spot because he needs those mines against those Dragoons. Otherwise, he cannot fight the Dragoons because Vultures deal half damage against Dragoons. Dragoons are the counter against Vultures because their unit size is, I think, medium instead of small, whereas Vultures deal concussive damage, which deals full damage against small units, such as Zealots and stuff. Yeah, Goldsword is successfully walled off. He's got Observer on the way, but in the meantime, Goldsword is here in the process of dying against Shin and Toki. The Dragoons and Vultures tearing through those SCVs with all the lightning speed. Not much he can do. He's got 2 tanks out though. Tanks deal full damage against Dragoons, but there's simply too many Dragoons for those tanks to fight into. And Goldsword winds up losing all of his tanks, all of his SCVs, and is pretty much completely dead. And Kong and Goldsword call the GG, and Toki and Shin win this game as well. And this game was actually played right after the previous game in this series, so I can kind of technically call this a 2-0 if we ignore all the games played before this. So yeah, somewhat exciting, but very, very quickly decided Protoss Terran against Protoss Terran. Honestly, once Goldsword lost that many SCVs, there's not much he can do. Unless, of course, he managed to hit a lot of SCVs of Toki, which he couldn't do. That game could have been way longer, but it ends quite quickly. Time for the 3rd game in this cast, and I don't yet know who the players are. Alright, for the 3rd game, we have LuckyBack replacing either Shin or Toki. And on the other team, we have, I think, Sinla back into the mix. Sinla and GS top, so actually 2 replacements. Sinla replaces either Goldsword or Kong, GS replaces either Goldsword or Kong, and LuckyBack replaces Shin. This time around, we've got LuckyBack on the Zerg, we've got GS top on the Zerg as well. Toki on the Protoss here on the bottom right, and on the top middle of the map, we've got Sinla once again playing the Protoss. And I expect both of them to go for a simple 1 gateway start on a 7-9 pylon, and then of course adding 2 more gateways and probably going into Dragoons or Zealot speed. Because their opponents, the Zergs, the 2 Zergs here, Protoss Zerg against Protoss Zerg, the 2 Zergs are gonna go for a hatchery and a pool, or a pool and a hatchery, and just all in on Zergling micro. At least that's what they usually do. They really love those very action-packed early phase Zerg styles that they play in their team plays because their micro is good, so they can afford it. If your micro is not good, you cannot afford to go there for this build because those Zerglings will not even be half as effective as they are with great micro. So yeah, both players starting off with a hatchery. The other 2 Protoss are starting off with a gateway on 9-9 and then 2 gateways right afterwards. So yeah, 3 gateway builds. Gonna be very strong in fighting. Pools coming down for both players. This pool is placed up a little bit high. I would have preferred to see it about here, just to keep his base a little bit more compact, but GS likes to spread it out a little bit more, as opposed to Toki, who makes it all a little bit more compact. This function as a wall, you can build some sunken here in the back, and then you can pull your drones off and wall off the sunken so the enemy zealots cannot attack your sunkens. Hatchery number 2 coming down there for both players. They're pretty much synced up almost perfectly. Toki only LuckyBack a little bit behind on GS top, but he's got a little bit more minerals though. I think about 8 more minerals, which doesn't really make much of a difference. So gateway number 4 coming out there for Toki. No gateway number 4 for Sinla. He went for a force instead. Makes a single cannon there as well. No Forge for Toki. He wants to go all in on those Zealots, get mid advantage, but it does expose him to a counter a little bit more because he has no cannon to fall back on, unlike Sinla. But having more units out in the middle of the map is definitely going to sway the battle into the favor of LuckyBack and Toki, or I could say clan style. Gate hatchery number 4. Oh, well, number 3 you could say, because the third extra hatchery is hatchery number 4. Toki staying on... No, there's number 4 as well. Once again, a little bit behind on... Never mind, it's LuckyBack. I keep calling him Toki, because I'm used to seeing Toki play the random, or the T or the Z. But LuckyBack is the Zerg. Alright, so fight starts on the middle. LuckyBack has got a couple more Zerglings, but one last drone than GS top. So the fight at the moment looks to be in favor of Toki and LuckyBack, but GS top is now sending in more Zerglings. More Zealots coming in from the top side there as well. He's got gas running. Toki got gas running as well, but he's a little bit behind on Sinla. He's got a no cybernetics core. There's a cybernetics core on the way for Sinla, so we will have spoons out before Toki does. Fourth gateway now also out. Fight happening here. The Zergling speed finished for both players, both GS and LuckyBack, having the Zergling speed finished up, adding more hatcheries into the mix as well. Actually, LuckyBack is now adding more hatcheries than GS, but GS might have more Zerglings. I think he has more Zerglings because his supply is higher and he's only got one drone more. So he's gonna have more Zerglings, but it all depends on who controls their units better. LuckyBack also, Toki also has more Zealots than Sinla. I believe all evens out pretty well. A couple of Zerglings managed to sneak into Toki's base. Toki's now got to pull off his probes, which is going to hurt his economy by a little bit. Puts him behind a little bit further behind Sinla. While a fight also happening here in front of the base of LuckyBack. Zerglings fighting against those Zerglings and Zealots. Zealots, who's going to win? Looks like Sinla and GS actually come out on top because Toki had to pull back his units to his base, and LuckyBack had to assist him in killing those couple of Zerglings. So LuckyBack looks to be in a very, very bad spot here because he does not have that many Zerglings to fight against those Zerglings and Zealots from Sinla and GS. But Dragoons, Zealots coming in from behind here from Toki, ready to save LuckyBack's hide. More Zerglings are on the way. He's got 8 on the way. Zerglings are very slowly dying there to the Zealots, but he's microing it pretty well. He's buying himself a lot of time. Now the Zealots from Toki are coming in as well. But at the same time, Zerglings are sneaking into Toki's base, backdooring. He's going to try to get the cannon, but the Zealots are blocking the Zerglings from having access to the cannon. He has managed to kill one cannon, managed to kill another cannon as well. Now we can go for a probe, kills one probe. Great multitasking here from GS, kills probe number 2, might kill probe number 3 and number 4 there as well. Zealots are trying to kill those Zerglings very quick, but doesn't wind up killing them quick enough. So LuckyBack came out alive and on top, now chasing those Zealots from Sinla top away, but GS once again entering the middle with more Zerglings, but he is a little bit behind in his base size, on 5 hatcheries, and LuckyBack also on 5 hatcheries, but GS does have 2 more drones, and he might add more drones into the mix very soon to boost up his economy, so we can transition into Hydralisk into the next phase of the game. But the time that might take might still be a little long, because I think these players will try to keep sneaking those Zerglings into the enemy base again and again. LuckyBack there, putting his Zerglings there on the side, but I think Sinla knows that they're there. He's waiting for he's using the Dragoon for vision on those Zealots, so he knows what to do, so he decides to sneak out before those Zerglings become trapped on that top corner, where they will become Zealot food. Now the attack from Toki is getting attacked by the Zerglings, but at the same time he's trying to go for a counter move on GS, who is not really getting caught with his pants down because he's got Sunguns there in the back. The Zerglings are defending the Sunguns there quite well. He is losing a couple of his drones. He is almost losing that pool, but the pool gets defended by the drones, but there's a price to pay because he loses his drones there. So now he's behind on LuckyBack in drone count. Sinla is ahead of Toki in probe count, but somewhat evens out. GS does have some minerals to recover, but not that many. It's gonna take a while before he's battle ready again. Because LuckyBack is now making 5 drones, a lot of Zerglings, ready to get back into the fight. Toki is walling off Sinla's LuckyBack's entrance, but Sinla tries to go in nonetheless. Sinla managed to get Zealot speed before Toki. Toki's still researching it, but he's also got Dark Templars on the way. Now it's alright. Now that the Zealots have cleared out some of the Zerglings and the Zealots that were there, the Zerglings can now go in and try to get a flank off on LuckyBack's back there. But nope, he turns around because Shin+, is going for a cannon block here on Toki. But it might take a while before this finished up. The two Zealots there, Dark Templars there are getting detected by the two Overlords. That GS has moved in there. LuckyBack is droning up really quick now on 28 drones, whereas Shin+ is only on, GS is only on 18. There's a couple more on the way though, but he needs more supply space. 24, 29 drones. And the wall seems to have succeeded. Toki is blocked into his base and will be incapable of assisting his ally LuckyBack with surviving the next wave of the attack. Is going to be coming once those cannons here finish up. He's trying though. He's harassing those Zealots. Trying to keep the Dark Templar just outside of the detection range, but his Dark Templar almost dies there. Almost dies. LuckyBack forced to make a lot of sunkens there to prepare himself for the incoming attacks from Shin+ and GS. But the Goons are now also in the mix. Shin+ has been playing really well. APM are really high. Toki looks like Toki honestly went for an inferior build order than Shin+ did, which ended up giving Shin+ the lead over Toki. But nonetheless, as of yet, both teams are holding their own, but Shin+ and GS are definitely in the lead here. Shin+'s got 150 supply over Toki's 111. Shin+ is really carrying this game with his seemingly superior micro-macro. I think this is somewhat a result of losing those 5 drones in the early game for Toki, where he fell behind on Shin+, and those 5 probes might just make a huge difference. It does look like LuckyBack is going to bite the dust here. Zerglings there are just making sure that Toki cannot break out. Yeah, it honestly looks like LuckyBack is going to bite the dust here because Shin+ has simply too many units. It's kind of the fate of the Zergs in 2 vs 2 and 3 vs 3 in the Korean scene. They kind of become a sacrifice because they play on such low economy. They never really get that big. They're just Zergling bots, and if they do get into the late game, they can explode really quickly, really fast. But you can cut them off very early. Yeah, Toki calls the GG, which means LuckyBack calls the GG as well, because Toki knows he cannot get out. The drop tech was a little bit too late, and I assume he thinks, or assume he knows, that he cannot fight a 1 vs 2 against 2 players of this level. GS was catching up quite nicely, 36 drones, and Shin+ on 51 probes, with quite a nice base size. And he had some side vision here as well, just in case. Side vision there with the Overlord as well. So really well played there from GS and Shin+, and nets themselves a win against Clan Style, their first win in the 2 vs 2 series, if we ignore the 3 vs 3. And I'm going to do 1 or 2 more replays, and I'm going to call it a day. So let's see what's going to happen in replay number 4, and who we're playing and who wins. Actually, this is replay number 5, where they played 2 vs 2. There were a couple of 3 vs 3 in between. The number 4 was a Protoss versus Protoss, but honestly, it's a little bit too long because I don't want to make the video too long. I'm going to skip on that one. But this is replay number 5. I don't know who won number 4 in the 2 vs 2 matches that they played. The score that they have, you can completely ignore because it's way different from the 3-0 we have with the 2-0, the 2-1 actually, 2-1 we have witnessed up until now. 2 wins for Style, 1 win for Top. But the score is completely different than that. So the score doesn't really matter. It matters is that the matches are entertaining. So yeah, I picked game number 5, or well, actually game number 12, but number 5 on the 2 vs 2, because it's a little bit shorter. Oh, LuckyBack. That's unlucky. Not that lucky today. Pulled off his SCVs, which is going to slow him down in comparison to Guildsword quite a bit. Quite a bit. He'll have less minerals than him, as you can already see. He's about 50, 60 behind on Gullsword. Gullsword already has his barracks and his gas started there, whereas LuckyBack still has to start his gas, and he's behind by about... let's see, he's about behind by half the time it takes to make a refinery, so I want to say about 10 seconds behind on him, which might really have an impact on this game. Anyway, we've got Shin and LuckyBack playing Protoss Terran, and we've got Gullsword and Kong playing Protoss Terran as well. The spots are somewhat even, honestly, although the distance to travel for Kong is quite big as compared to Shin, who's on a mid spot, and this has less distance to travel before he reaches Gullsword, whereas Kong has a lot of distance to travel before he reaches LuckyBack. So yeah, Marine is out for both players. LuckyBack actually finishes Marine a little bit before Gullsword, but Gullsword is one SCV ahead of LuckyBack. Although there I think he killed an SCV of Gullsword. And yeah, this is what I mean. Oh, he failed. He failed. But it does slow down that gas income, because SCVs spawn all the way here, if you go all the way around to deliver the gas. So Shin is giving LuckyBack a little bit of a comeback opportunity here to make up for pulling his workers off of the minerals in the within the first 30 seconds. Zealots out, Zealots fighting, Zealots hunting for Marines. He's really putting some pressure. Both players are putting pressure on Gullsword here, and this goes to show the difference in locations and what kind of effect that might have. Gullsword is playing this pretty well. Most of the Marines off LuckyBack have gone down. You still got 2 Marines alive there, but now Kong is going for a counterattack, knowing that LuckyBack used most of his Marines to attack Gullsword, but he's leaving Gullsword to defend and fend on his own. The factory does finish up. Factory is finished up for LuckyBack there as well. It's got a Vulture on the way. Vulture of Gullsword is having the exact same timing, but at the moment, Gullsword is having a harder time than LuckyBack, because LuckyBack has that bunker here next to his command center that is preventing those Zealots from going a little bit in too deep. Although he does prevent that factory from happening, because he attacks the SCV. The Vulture is out. The Vulture is going to have the micro. Vulture out here for Gullsword as well. Gullsword now 1 SCV behind on LuckyBack, but he does manage to keep Shin out of his base after the single Zealot dies. Although, it's a smart placement on that factory. Well, actually, he can kill the SCV now if he was paying attention, but he's not. Forces pull back. Ooh, he missed his opportunity. Was busy here looking at trying to defend against those Zealots. I'm going to change the colors because the colors were not too kind. Yellow and olive green. Look at this. Kind of hard to differentiate. Really hard to differentiate. So I'm just going to keep it on this one. One more pylon to kill. LuckyBack being a cheeky Vulture micro here inside of Kong's base. Kong already has Dragoons, so the Vulture is forced to retreat. Got mines on the way, but it's going to take at least another 10 seconds for the mines finish. Which might give Kong... I want to say might give Kong the opportunity to go in, but instead he turns around to fight against those Zealots from Shin here. Zealots here inside of Shin's base still being annoying. He killed 3 probes. So Gullsword Clan Top is ahead of Clan Style at the moment. But now the mines are finished. They're being put down there. But he managed to kill a couple of those mines. He's losing his Dragoons there. Ooh, he managed to snipe the mine. That was really sweet stuff, Gullsword there. That was really sweet stuff. So yeah, fights once again happening here on the middle. Dragoons from Shin. Zealots as well against the Kong. Zealots and Dragoons. More importantly though, Gullsword is very messily throwing out a lot of factories there. LuckyBack is mimicking him. He's got siege mode on. No, Vulture speed on the way. No siege mode yet. No tanks yet either for both players. He's blazing. Gullsword is only now starting his mines. I'm not sure if that was the best choice, because denying Shin the ability to move around the middle with his Dragoons and his Zealots would have been a huge impact on the match. Alright, a couple of Vultures manage to sneak in, but don't really get any results because they're forced to fight against those Vultures. Shin and LuckyBack turning around, having walled off Kong with those mines. He does have an Observer on the way. Observer has not finished yet. Shin is not even making an observatory yet. Oh, he goes in here. Gullsword caught with his pants down. No mines yet, no tanks yet either. Mines finishing up, tank is on the way. More vultures now streaming into his base. And honestly, looks like Goldsword made a huge mistake there. Because this is going to wind up probably killing him. That's a lot of vultures there. Oh, this is really sweet here from Kong. He managed to sneak his way into the side there, but he couldn't go in just yet because he's waiting for that observer to start clearing out those mines. And yeah, Goldsword is dead. Goldsword made a small wrong choice. Kong is managed to clear out the middle, doing a really great job. But who is he going to kill first? Is he going to try and save Goldsword, or is he going to go for a counterattack on either LuckyBack or Shin? You could honestly have dealt a lot of damage with those Dragoons to either player, but perhaps saving Goldsword is the right choice. Perhaps it is the right choice. Vultures here, once again trying to wreak havoc. They're probably going to try to lay mines inside of the base of... Yes, one mine comes down, 2 mines, 3 mines, but the mines are going to go down. Actually, Zealots go down to the mines. The mines, of course, also going down. But yeah, this is the kind of action-packed, fast-paced 2 versus 2 that I love. Yeah, Starport coming out. He's making raids. And considering Goldsword has no anti-air, the raids will be capable of killing a lot of the few SCVs that he's got remaining on his minerals there. He really got slowed down. He got chunked down really hard there by the attack by Shin and Lucky. Kong and the Goldsword are going to have a really hard time fighting their way back into this one. So there's 4 Zealots inside that shuttle. Tanks in the back here for LuckyBack behind the pylons and the 2 cannons. There in, oh, no cannons, just pylons, which will make it impossible for those Dragoons to get in. Shuttle goes in, shuttle unloading on top of the units and triggering the mines, but he doesn't wind up killing the tank. It was worth the attempt, but it didn't work out as he wanted it to. But at least they managed to keep LuckyBack confined in his base. Shin is doing the exact same thing, making a wall of 3 pylons there to make it harder for Dragoons and Vultures to get into the base of Shin. But Kong is going for the attack nonetheless. A lot of mines there on the middle. And actually, inadvertently, by making that wall to protect LuckyBack, LuckyBack is now, in turn, completely walled off. But neither Goldsword or Kong can go for an attack or killing move on Shin here. So it looks like it's somewhat of a stalemate, other than LuckyBack having almost 20 more SCVs than Goldsword. The raids, where are the raids? Where did the Wraith go? I thought he already finished the Wraith, but I can't spot it anywhere on the map. So yeah, they can't go on Shin, although maybe they can go on Shin because they've got those tanks there. If he moves those tanks up here to the front, they can probably shoot this down and kill Shin, although Shin does have a lot of Dragoons. Kong has a little bit more though. But there's the Wraith there on the bottom side. Would it intercept something? I'm sure, but not sure what is there to intercept though. And yeah, LuckyBack now killing the pylon that Shin made there in the front, looking for a way out. Kong is balling up bigger and bigger, but Shin is catching up. Ooh, Reaver drop here from Kong on Shin. And the Scarabs wind up killing only a couple of those pesky probes. I think he killed about 7 there, so at least he managed to put Shin back like a tiny bit. But now that LuckyBack has broken out, he's going out into the middle, but I think he bit off more than he can chew by moving out a little bit too deep. He's also got those tanks there on the side that are limiting Kong's ability to move out. But Shin coming in from the other side is winning this fight, although a lot of units now coming in from Kong. There's mostly Zealots. He's gonna get surrounded. Mines there are making life a little bit harder for Shin. But now the Vultures are sneaking back into Goldsword's base, and Goldsword's got nothing inside of his base. Actually, both Vultures wind up... Ooh, he's got 1 HP on that Vulture. 1 HP, please fight back. Please fight back. Yeah, he kills it. Middle fight seems to be going in favor of Shin and LuckyBack, although mostly Shin tearing through all those units that Kong and Goldsword had there on the middle. Yeah, LuckyBack is just walling off Kong here, and Kong is now going to be forced to go for shuttle plays. But LuckyBack's preparing himself very well with all those turrets there on the side to shoot down those shuttles. He's probably going to have to unload there on the side, but if he unloads there on the side, he's going to get caught by all those ground units here. LuckyBack has prepared for the defense, so this game is pretty much now in the hands of Shin, who's forcing his way deeper into Guildsword's base. Guildsword has a very small mass, very small base. He's got those tanks here though that are firing back, but not achieving much results. And it looks like Shin here got dropped once again, because he's now behind 9 probes on Kong. Shuttle there once again moving out. Looks like Shin is going for the kill move because he's got the observer there to detect the mines. His tank is there protected by the mines in the back, but he's killing SCVs in the process. He's going for the tank. Tank mark goes backwards. Tank might go down. Oh, he's shooting down the mines. Does look like Guildsword is defending himself. Ooh, another drop here coming in on Shin, but there's no Storm, no Reaver there in the mix, which is going to be a very annoying Zealot drop on top of the Nexus. Deals some damage to the Nexus, but not that many. Doesn't kill any probes either. Does force Shin to pull off his probes though, but the middle is once again in control by LuckyBack and Shin. Kong really has to start stepping up into the next phase. He's got a lot of shuttles there, loading them up, but an attack once again coming down here on Guildsword. Guildsword is very small, very tiny. He's not even on half the supply of either LuckyBack or Shin. So those Zealots that don't even have speed are just walking in there happily, and they're gonna clear out. Smart Zealot drop there on the tanks, just in case the tanks were sieged up. But mass drop here on top of LuckyBack. LuckyBack is bugging his SCVs into the Dragoons and Zealots, rendering them incapable of fighting back. They're just gonna go down very quick there against the SCVs and the Vultures combined fighting prowess. Yeah, Guildsword is rest in peace. There's no way of coming back from this one. They don't call it GG, they just leave. Shin and LuckyBack come out on top quite decisively. Although here and there it looked very close. But once one thing goes wrong for either the Protoss or a Terran on one team, the game just snowballs out of control because they're behind in economics. And being behind in economics means you're behind in base building, means you're behind in unit production and fighting power, which all snowballs out of control as we saw it happen here. LuckyBack, more SCVs, Guildsword, less SCVs, and of course LuckyBack becomes too big for Guildsword or either Kong to handle. They played this one really well, a lot of good micro, good multitasking, good choices there. I really like the pylon wall that Shin made there in the front of LuckyBack's base. That somewhat saved LuckyBack's hide. Great teamwork from those two players. And yeah, Guildsword quite noticeably the weakest player in this match. Kong played really well, Guildsword made some mistakes, and the end result is LuckyBack and Shin win once again. And that's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.